Coach, whenever you're ready.
All right. We can get rocking with everybody. Good to see you guys. The first thing I'd hit you up with is, man, I really enjoyed the day with the players. It was a little bit like first day back at school. A lot of bounce in the step, a lot of energy to get rolling, and for them to see each other and honestly, like, get ready to go back to work and focus on some of the things that we really want to chase getting better at. And so, like I said, it was a good day and lots to hit on. So let's get started with you guys.
Go ahead, Con.
Hey, Dan. Let's go back to Marshon. What did you guys see from him last week in his progress, and what do you anticipate this week from him?
Last week went good, John. A lot of top speed running. So hitting all the markers as we're moving along. He was able to participate in the work that we did today. And as we're getting into practice, we're looking forward to getting him, regular work with the practice with the guys, and then we'll take that all the way through the week. But we were very encouraged about all the work that he and the medical team have put in. He's hitting all the steps along the way, and look forward to doing that more in practice this week as well.
What do you need to see from him as you get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Just the markers of him being able to, hit all the speeds, all the change of directions, and really all the things that will come up in practice for his position. So we've put him through a lot of tests, John, all the strength, all the speed to go. And so he's hit all the markers up until now. And so that process that we have is a strict one for that reason, to, keep the players safe and healthy. And so he's done a really good job of, making sure he could hit them. And we'll take that into practice now this week, and hopefully that'll lead into, a full week of practice and into the game. But until we get all the way to that spot, I'll, stay guarded and then, give you guys updates as we get into Friday.
Nikki.
What's your plan at kicker?
Our plan?
Yes.
Yeah, we're staying where we're at as we finished up in the last game. So that's the plan as we're hitting it today. Zane's healthy and he's kicking.
Oh, he's signing to the 53?
The rosters that we'll have up, we'll talk about that coming in this week, but that will be easy. Now I get where you're going. You came at me so quickly with that, Nikki. I'm sorry. I wasn't ready for that. Yes, we're planning on Zane to be the kicker moving forward.
Okay.
There we go.
And just the extra time, what can that do for all the guys, especially those in the trenches?
Yeah, I think coming into it, you wanted to make sure – we didn't talk a lot about the bye. It felt like a long, far-off way. And so when we were going into it, we knew we needed some space to heal up and to get healthy. Coming out of it, that's why I enjoyed today being around them. There was a bounce and an energy with the guys to get going. So in December and January football, the line of scrimmage is really the thing that leads the way, both sides. And we've seen that all over the league for years and years. And so that will be no different this year. And so to have these guys trending this way, at this time of year and feeling better, Nikki, that's a big deal.
Ben?
Dan, I'm sort of curious, how you spent your weekend without a game. Specifically, was there any type of scoreboard watching, or were you paying attention to certain teams to start to get a feel for what's going on in the NFC?
Not as much on yesterday. Wanted to watch New Orleans, so that's where my focus was. Into the game, and then after that game was over, other games to go. But generally, if I had more time, that's usually where I would look to the NFC. But honestly, for us as the teams, goes, we don't really try to look too far down the line, and we'll leave that to you and everybody outside, just to make sure that for us, Ben, the only fight that matters is one we're in. That's what we do have control over, and it's honestly a big story to make sure that we can have the discipline just to stay in it and just to New Orleans to go, because as you know, it's almost like so much talk externally about things, 4 and 5 weeks down the road, that I just don't want to miss anything that's into just this week, because that's really the only thing that we have control over. So that's what I do.
And in terms of getting ready for the stretch run, I know you wanted to take some time off, but I'm sure there was some self-scouting going on. And I'm just curious, at this point, is it looking back at just recent games? Do you factor in all the season, or kind of whatever you did, what was sort of your thought process and your staff's process going to do that?
Yep. You start first individually, with the players, and you wanted to find any trends of where we were, at the beginning to where we are as you're moving through each course of the season. So we are able to basically self-scout as we're going, Ben, but you also want to get more specific, get a little further down. What's that on man coverage? What's this, route combination? What does that look like? How do we put different people in different spots to make sure they can really do what they're doing? So you want to look from an individual standpoint first. Are we putting the guys in the right spots to make the right plays, based on their skills? Then from a scheme standpoint, what's been successful and why? And you want to make sure you want to feature the things that the guys can really nail, Ben, so they can play without hesitation to absolutely let it rip. When injuries and stuff factor in, okay, you don't just plug and play. There's, certain people that will have to take up, different responsibilities for example, like Austin. And so that also factors in. But, you look individually, player-wise, then scheme, and then from the coaching side, you do want to make sure you look ahead to say, what contingencies would we need? And that's always the part of having a big, deep roster that you want to make sure is the next ready. And so that's part of my push, Ben, with the staff, to always make sure that everybody, is on the push to get ready. So there's not a player on the roster, it's okay, he's just developing. I don't think that way at all. Each position group, each week, we're pushing them to say, are you ready? Are you prepared? And that's how we can get the whole group ready, as opposed to having to look elsewhere when those things come up.
Sam?
What are those specific things you're looking for your team to improve on coming out of the bye?
We still want to improve on our turnover margin, Sam. I think we're at 8th or 9th, somewhere into that space. But we'd love to, as we're pushing through these games, you want to be able to try to finish in double digits if you can. And so we're not there yet. And so that's always one that's at the front of my thinking. Then you get into like tackling and breaking tackles from a fundamental standpoint. How do you work that? How do you break leverage onto people? And then as we're going in through that, we're always come back to the line of scrimmages. Now, I think I was referring earlier about that, with either John or with Nikki, about that's going to be, an area of emphasis for us. And not just this game and the next game, but really just moving forward. That has to be, a strong part of what we do.
Last Thursday, late in the fourth quarter, the Lions were driving in a tie game deep in opponent territory, and they decided to go for it rather than kick a field goal. I'm wondering if you watched that, if you had a reaction to it, just as a head coach being in sort of similar position. Yeah, it's fun about that. We do that, and we go through a lot of those every week with Dave Gardy, and so there were some yesterday, in fact, with some of the games that we go through. But it is a fun part of that process to go through. When you're into that spot, there's also, how are you doing? What's the opponent look like? And so some of it is gut, to say, hey, what's the distance that you have to go? But it certainly paid off for them, on that particular one. So that's a good call.
David Aldridge?
Hey, Dan. On your more successful teams over the years, how have they been able to handle the challenge of, this is a big game this week,
yep,
at a big time of the season, and not get overwhelmed by the moment?
Yeah, it's a good topic. And that's really, Dave, that you want. This is why you lean in on some of the players that have been in that experience. I'm talking about a Wagner, I'm talking about an Ertz, I'm talking about ones that, hey, man, Allegretti, like, let's talk through this and have the discussions about leaning into this game. And one thing I do like, Dave, I think this is important. I learned it from Coach Carroll, that if you just continue to make each of the games the same process, the same way that you go prepare, when you do step into these arenas, you don't make the next one bigger than the next one, and because you can get in your own head about that, but you really stay true to that process. Earlier this year, we've all heard a lot about trust the process. That's been maybe a buzzword, I don't know for how many years, but it's certainly maybe 5 or 10 years. Magic Johnson spoke to us, and he said, he's added one word at the end, David, I thought was important. He said, enjoy the process of winning. And I thought he was right. It's not just the process of getting ready. And or for us, that's competition Wednesday. That's where our team starts, and Thursday and Friday and into Saturday. And then you get to the game, and you really feel confident because you put the work in. And that's what he was talking about, the process of winning. And I thought, what a great one-word fill-in at the end. Not just the process, but the process of winning.
What was Wiley able to do last week, if anything?
Went all through the process for us, and everything's trending up for him to go and get a full week of work in. So it just worked out that time and that space, was helpful for him.
Scott?
Hi, Dan. To your point of enjoy the process of winning, in its simplest form right now, your team controls their own destiny. Win out, and you guys are going to the playoffs. Do you emphasize that to your players about, hey, the ball's in our court, and how exciting is that to be in this position?
Scott, you must have just logged on. There's zero chance we're talking about 4 weeks down the road. But what I can tell you, my friend, is that we really try to stay into the here and now. And honestly, what I talked about with the team was a concept of base camp. We're not at the bottom, but we're nowhere near the summit. You just try to get to the next camp and then to the next one and then to the next one. And so if we continue to chase that, Scott, that's where it's at for us. And so for us this week, we're going to constantly chase, can we get better and get everything we need to do for New Orleans? The following week, we'll do the same. But I just try to make it a discipline. Can we be disciplined enough to not look 3 and 4 weeks down the road? And that's what we'll constantly go after. So sorry to spoil your moment there, but I did have to correct you on that one.
No moment. In terms of Jaden, Coach, he obviously has a great foundation. He's learning. He's growing. This final stretch, these 4 games, how do you want to see him evolve? How do you want to see him grow even more? What's the next step for Jaden?
Yeah, I think what I saw going into this season was a player that this is a real competitor, and he knew in those winning time moments, what that would look like and how he would respond. And so, learning as you're going, that's a big piece of playing quarterback. How does different people try to play in? How do you react to that, knowing that they're going to try to play a certain way? So the understanding of the system, he's nailed that. The competitive nature, he's nailed that. Now, when it comes time to they're trying to play us a certain way, how quickly can we react and play into what's needed for that moment? And I have a sense he'll absolutely nail that too, Scott. He's just that type of competitor. And what I did see in the last game was for him, full speed processes and decisions. And you had heard me talk about the importance of that practice time for him. And I really felt that heading into our last game, which was against Tennessee, but all the way through the practice week, all the reps, all the stuff that went into it. I felt that on game day. And so I expect, as you were trying to say, like, what am I looking to see from him? I expect to see more of that moving forward, now that we're back into, full swings of practice and playing.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Andy?
Hey there, Coach. I see you coming in hot. You kind of already answered some of my questions, but I have a couple more for
All right, bring him on.
Last game, Sheldon Day was one of the captains, so can you share what you've seen out of him so far?
Yes, I thought he's really made a significant impact here, and I would consider him one of the glue guys here, behind the scenes that can help people connect, stay together. He's a very consistent player, and so up some games, not active for some games, but to see him remain the same each and every week, Candy, I thought that was significant, and that type of consistency was rewarded. That's why we named him a captain for that game. But he's got a nice way about him of connecting behind the scenes to make sure the people are in the right spots, doing the right things, and I've been certainly impressed by that.
And you mentioned where you all are regarding the line of scrimmage. So can you share a little bit more about your thoughts on where you think the team is right now?
Sure. As we're going, we wanted to make sure from the way we run the ball, run defense, all of that being such an important phase of what we do. A lot of the time, the run offense and the run defense can be the longest to get going. But now that we've established a lot of playing time together, that has to be the focal point, as we're moving forward through this final stage of the second half of the season for us. And so that part, run game, all 11 together, pass protection, same thing defensively, the run defense, and how does all that tie together? That's really what makes it all come alive. And the fun part of that is not every offense does it exactly the same. So defending one offense is different from another one, and that's kind of the fun part of being in the NFL and coaching, to say this is what you have to get done this week. It's not the same exact every week, but defending different players and different schemes. And we certainly have a running back here that is exceptional, that we'll head down to New Orleans to face. And he's a perfect example of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna?
Hey, Coach. A lot of the players talked about after the win and then going into the bye, they talked a little bit more about coming out of the bye. What are some key things that you'll drill in this week to make sure that they come out sharp and not flat? That's
a great one, Donna, and I think you're right. The practice is where we really come together as an entire team, and the urgency at practice, that's the marker, because that urgency can also help you with the focus. That urgency can help you with the communication. You've been a part of a practice where it's fast and it's upbeat and you're hearing that type of communication. So what we did today was to set us up for a great week. So jog through, some throwing, some catching, the communication, the line of scrimmage, it was all designed to, as going into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that we can really throw a hell of a week and have ourselves a championship week in terms of the preparation of what we do. So having a day like today is important. I wouldn't have wanted to come in just, from the bye and right into the Wednesday. So today was kind of like a setup day. Get everything orchestrated, situated, work out, so by the time you do get to Wednesday, you can really let it rip. And that's the urgency at practice that I'll be looking for, and that will carry over into the game.
And also, you've gone through a huge stretch of the season now. What have you learned most about this team? And has anything surprised you at this point?
I have learned that this is a really resilient and tough group. And I just don't think they're ever out of the fight. And I love that about our team. That's our makeup. That's what we stood for. To say, at the end, you still got a chance to go battle for it. I'd love to say you win all these close games, but we did have to go through those, Donna. That's where you grow. It hasn't been always easy for us going through those difficult games, but you do grow, even though it sucks to have the last second loss or the, one that comes down at the end. But I'd love to say you didn't have to go through that, but in a way you do, because that is where some of this toughness and resilience does come from. That's one thing I've learned. Things that have surprised me, I would say they've connected even faster than I thought they would, Donna. It's not easy for a lot of people to connect this quickly. There had to be some agendas that were pushed to the side to make sure that the team could do well. One of the things that's fun to be on the sideline when you see them get excited for the other players making plays. And so when you, as a team, when you see other guys getting all excited when guys making play and it's not themselves, that's a really good sign, because they know they're all in it for their guys. And so that's what made today a fun day here, to see their energy, to be back in the building, doing their thing together. And so that would be my surprise, that they bonded and connected faster than most early teams. And then the thing that I've learned is that these guys are tough. And I love that they're never out of the fight. By no means have we played perfect in a lot of ways, but the fact that this type of energy and this type of toughness is back in this building, I couldn't think of another group that I'd like to go and play this week with than these guys. They just absolutely love to fight together, and I love being a part of that.
Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, Donna.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll see you guys on Wednesday, and